Welcome, everybody, to a HEX Futures episode. Have I ever told you that I have a distrust for people who like horror movies? And this lines up with it, and this also lines up with it's very strange how the universe is. I'm very, very sorry to the families involved. I have not reached out to them. I have not gotten any investigation going or anything like that. No interviews. So I apologize if I make mistakes, but I just wanted to catch people up on this subject. There was a girl who was up in Idaho, Washington area, and she was going to school at a college in Idaho and about to have an internship down here in Austin. And she had gotten into crypto, which was HEX crypto. Either that or her father had gotten into HEX crypto. And she was a girl who loved her friends and worked with one of them at a downtown shop called something about Greek something or other over there in this small Idaho town. And it was in late 2022. It was November 13th, the evening of or the morning of, that somebody who had been stalking her and her friends or her household, the guy stalked them for an entire night, and he was a criminal justice type teacher's assistant at the university in the next town over on the other side of the Idaho border in Washington. And this guy, they know because his phone pinged around the area so many times in the month before this incident. This guy, it must be his relationship with his mother and his father, and like his sister has a little bit of the issue too. It seems that they just don't connect with what's actually happening in the world, and they think that horror movies are interesting, let's say. So just fitting into society just didn't work out. So this guy, it seemed as though over the course of his life, his thing was he's going to pull off the best murder, and he's going to sit back and attempt to be a person that doesn't get caught. Well, he got caught. And that's why I'm doing this video right now, is because in the last week, I've understood that this case has been where this guy is now going to spend his life in prison. He's 30 years old. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison for 4 murders back to back to back to back to back. So the young lady that I've been pinpointing, her name is Madison, and she has a good friend who passed with her named Kaylee, and they have another good friend and that girl's boyfriend named Xana and Ethan. And I had mentioned in passing this murder scenario because I had dreams the night that was going on, and I woke up all weird, and then the news started showing it off, and then whenever I had enough information to just notify you guys who watch this channel, I told you that something had happened, but I didn't want to go into detail. And then also, we didn't know anything, but let me tell you, they had this guy's DNA within hours, and within the day, they had his vehicle. Therefore, within 4 to 6 weeks, they had him arrested in custody, and starting the whole thing of the state of Idaho is going to go after this guy. Now, our Hexagon father, he was told by some insiders that it was going to be um, the prosecutors for the state, they weren't going to do the best job, so he needed to stay on top of them. And he actually feels as though because he didn't get the death penalty for this guy, who we're going to call BK, we're going to call him by his initials, BK. The dad feels as though he failed his daughter. Now, I'm looking at it as like, at least the guy didn't slip away. But I kind of think that, you know, if he wasn't in the state's custody, then you'd have a lot of pissed off people out in the countryside who might sneak something. But let's see. I wish I prepared more for this. The crypto bull market is about to kick off, or we're all expecting it to. And so that's what stage we're in right now. Whenever it was that these murders took place, HEX was at, what was it at? It had dropped from its all-time high down to 3 cents, and it was about to go back up to 13 cents before then returning back down to 3 or so cents. So that's the scenario, late 2022. So that means it was a year after the all-time high. And this girl had just, Madison, her life was changing. She was moving out of this house that she lived with her friends in this college town up on the hill, not far from campus. And in fact, it's right on the edge of campus, if not one of the campus facilities. I'm not sure who owned the property, but the property is now demolished. It was a small footprint, 3-story house, sort of built into the hill because of that bottom floor was kind of in the hill a little bit. She had just bought a brand new Range Rover and drove it from her hometown to the town that I'm talking about, this college town, in order to show it off and have a good night out with her good friend Kaylee. And then there were other people inside of this house, and there was Madison's dog as well. So I guess she brought her dog with her in the Range Rover, or maybe she came back to town to retrieve her dog. But her dog, throughout this incident, her dog supposedly was put into her old bedroom where there wasn't anything but a mattress, if anything. So she had already cleaned out all of her clothes, and she was about to take on this internship down here in Austin. So completely changed her life. She broke up with her boyfriend, who lived 2 blocks away, who was the initial suspect of this whole thing, but quickly was passed. So I'm going to share screen because somebody was contacted to do a 3D model for whenever this became like national news and they really wanted to go over it nationally. They had to explain how difficult to understand this house is. And so they made this awesome 3D model. And then after KB pled guilty and was sentenced to the life in prison for the 4 murders, then this gal was like, okay, I'm going to share this model and talk about the progression because it was this girl's work. And so she's going to say it. So her, she's got 42,000 subscribers. Zagat, or Asget Industries is her name. And there's 500,000 views on this video here that I'm sharing now on the screen. So this is the 3-story house. We are looking south and up a hill. Behind us is the university. And what they did was they ghosted the front wall of this place. So if you can see my cursor now, there on the bottom floor is like this basement level that's been built into the hill, and that's where people park in front of. And then they walk into this door here, and then there's a little stair, like just one set of stairs that goes up to the second floor, and then there's two little stairs. So like a set of stair, and then landing, and then stairs that lead up to the third floor. There on the second floor is where the living room is in front here. And then there's a kitchen in the back where my cursor is. So every floor has a bathroom, but it's the second floor that has the living room and kitchen. And every floor has 2 bedrooms on it. Okay, so each set of bedrooms shares a bathroom on every floor. So also, this house was kind of known as the party house. Only one of the people who lived in this house at the time lived there the year before, so it's a constant changeover. And right before the murders took place, these folks, or some of the folks, had returned from the nightlife, and one of them, Xana, had ordered Uber Eats or something like that, DoorDasher. And so she had just received the order and then laid down and had turned off the lights, or possibly not even turned off the lights. She was still awake, but it seems as though Ethan was either too intoxicated or he was having a bad night. So I guess I'll just talk a little bit about the progression, and then I'll just pay my respects, and then we'll just get off of this, because I don't think there's too much crypto stuff to talk about in this, or much of an expansion, like, because I'm not the one who knows everything, but I have gotten a good understanding of the layout of the land, how BK, what he did that got him caught, and just how beautiful these people were at their young, ripe age. So KB entered through the back door in the kitchen area. There's a sliding glass door back there, and everybody in the neighborhood in this back area on these streets, they're able to see straight into the back of this house. Madison's room up here in the top left, she had a little M and boots in the window. And so her window was like if she didn't shut her blinds, then people were able to see straight into her window, to where it was often inviting voyeurism, if you will. So that was something to think about when investigating this. So what happened was Kaylee, I'm sorry. Kaylee and Madison went out that night and then retreated together. And then so they slept together up here in Kaylee's room. And then Xana and Ethan, they went out to the frat house on the other side of the field that's behind us. And so Ethan went straight to bed, but Xana needed a little bit more food to sober up, I suppose. And then there was this gal, I think this one's name is Dylan, and I forget this one down on the bottom, but there were 2 other people inside the house, females. So this is as I understand it, this is a female house, and then the boyfriend is staying over, but quite possibly he was such a good guy that he lived down here below, and he lived with 5 girls. I don't know. Anyway, like I said, Madison had already moved out in the weeks before. So quite possibly KB maybe he saw into this bedroom and saw that it was about time that he needed to act in order to act on these people, because it seemed as though he had been staking them out, and it's probably because of this household. And also, I talked about the dog. The dog, throughout the year or throughout a few months, had sometimes been let into the backyard and then went to the tree line and disappeared for a while and was quiet. And then they would try to call the dog back, but it wouldn't come back immediately. And then also there had been times where there were just people in there. There was a guy in the tree line over here, and then also there was a report of a guy in a tree line, or walking through a backyard a block away from here, 2 blocks away from here. There's other houses that are about this same size lot in the area, and then next door, well, actually on 2 sides of this are apartments that are 2-story, I believe, apartments. But those apartments, the people, they don't walk around. Instead, everybody's using streets. And then I guess it is worth mentioning where my cursor is back here on the left, there's a parking lot for extra overflow parking for the apartments. And then I believe where my cursor is right now over here to the right, I believe there's a higher elevation street that wraps around the backside of this. Okay, so what happened in the analysis of a lot of folks is that KB went up to this extra area of parking for the apartments. He parked there. He came down into the back door that's a sliding door that is level with the ground on that backside, into that kitchen. And immediately he went up the stairs here in the middle and over to this bedroom that is Maddie's bedroom. So everybody, I think, is thinking that it was targeted towards Maddie. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Am I getting that confused? Maddie and Kaylee. Oh, gosh. Now I have to think their names. All right, we're take a break. Take a break.
How much you want to make a bet? I can throw over the mountains.
That was kind of funny because that was in Idaho. So I've gotten, because everybody, whenever you get onto live stream, you start to forget things. So I've got Kaylee and Maddie mixed up. I don't remember which one is which. I think Kaylee's the blonde, and then Maddie's a brunette, dyed blonde. I don't know. Okay, so the 2 girls that I'm talking about were up here in this top left corner, and they were asleep, and KB went straight to their room, and he used a knife, a marine knife. They call it a K-bar, and the reason why they call it a K-bar is because it was kill a bear is what it stood for. I believe that it was so loud up there that it alerted Xana down here in this bedroom of what was going on. And I think it also alerted the rest of the house. And so I believe what happened was Xana was so concerned, she got out of her room and went up to go check on their bedroom up here. And I think that KB chased her back down the stairs and over to her own bedroom, but for some reason, she didn't cry out. Therefore, she didn't alert her other 2 friends that were isolated in the house. And he followed her into the room and he used that knife on Xana and Ethan then. And Ethan, um, it was almost like it was too easy because he was not aware of what was all going on. He was probably just absolutely passed out. Xana actually put up a fight, and so she was found laying here at the end of the bed. Ethan was still in the bed, and sadly, Madison and Kaylee were still in their beds. Using the knife, of course, there's so much blood that's running everywhere. And later on, the police photographs or the media's coverage of this will show you that blood had run down this outside wall and then out like underneath the wall on top of the foundation slab. So it was running out of the house. There was so much blood on the floor. Okay, so after KB attacked these two in here and was done with that struggle, then he sat down in one of these chairs. And I guess what he was doing was he was saying, like, I must have been really, really loud. And if somebody comes knocking to this door, I'm going to take them out too. You know, I'll have another person to handle. I don't think that he was planning on killing more than one. He just wanted one trophy and to leave, in my opinion. But whenever it was that Xana got his attention and he had to leave this top room up here in the top left, he left behind his marine K-bar knives sheath, you know, the leather wrapping of it. And it's my understanding that he had like a kill pack with him. He kind of like packed in. He had overalls and ski mask overall sort of thing. And I think that he had sort of like his little bug out bag, his little bag of roll up stuff. And so whenever it was that he got into this room, he probably laid all that stuff out. And then whenever he had to leave the room in a hurry, he didn't have everything with him, and that sheath slipped out. And so that sheath had his DNA. So there it was on that floor or wherever it was in the room. And he had never, I think it was actually underneath one of the girls. And so he had never returned to go and get it. When it was after he sat down inside of this room here in Xana and Ethan's room, then he let a little bit of time pass, and then he got up and left. And whenever he left, he just went through the kitchen sliding door, the same as what he did before, how he came in. He went up to his car and he took off really, really fast. Because to the right of our view right now, over there, there's the back of another house. And on the front side of that house, it has a camera view shooting the street. And there's a T-bone in the street. And so whenever he rounded that corner, he almost lost control because there was a little bit of ice on the road that day. A few days after this, it snowed really hard, and the winter, everything started, like the white winter. But at this time, there wasn't yet snow on the ground, is my understanding. And it was kind of a covered night. You couldn't see the stars. So when he got up and he went toward the kitchen, he had to go through this little tiny hallway area that's a corridor, a little area at the base of the stairs. And right there is where this girl's room door is. And she had just slightly opened the door and peeked out. And she was able to see a guy with bushy eyebrows which actually fits the description of BK. Now, BK, he has an eye issue for his life where it's something about called like snowy vision or something, where he constantly has this digitized white um ISO factor to his vision. And so quite possibly he wasn't able to see her quietly open the door. Or maybe she wasn't quiet at all and he just wasn't used to the sounds of the house. But whatever the case, he did not see her, but she saw him. So, and that was after all the ruckus, all this stuff inside, all those loud noises inside the house. And we're suspecting that a few local cameras that picked up a little bit of sound, we're suspecting that like some of these slaps on the floor or up against the wall were actually because of these actions that were going on. So it must have been pretty freaking loud. And then some people are just writing it off as, oh, these are just drunk college students. So in a party house. So like, you know, you remember yourself whenever you were hungover or that sort of thing, rowdy. So all of the two girls that are in the house still and still alive, they start texting the rest of them, and they don't get any response except for amongst the two of them. So after some time goes by, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, this girl down here in the basement, she convinces the girl here, I think her name's Dylan, in the middle, she convinces her to run down the stairs and join her down in the basement. Whenever she did that, she says that she saw Xana's leg and that Xana was laying down, but she didn't know, the state of anything. And then I'm not sure if the two girls ended up staying the rest of the night down here or if Dylan went back up to her room after a while. But it wasn't until at least 9 o'clock in the next morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, that the police were called. And then it broke national news that there was a Quattro homicide. Oh my. So 3 young ladies' lives were lost and a fine young man as well. And that's really sad up there in Idaho. But they were able to catch the guy and they were able to put him in prison with basically no chance to get out. Let's hope that he's not able to live in any sort of light where, like, he's gonna write a book, he's gonna get tons of interviews, all these sorts of things. He's gonna become a cult classic inside of the murder mystery or serial killer world. He showed adornment for people like that in the past, and his mother helped him, and his sister, as I understand it, starred in a horror film that I have yet to watch. And so that's one of the things I want to look into in the next few days, is this horror film that his sister was in. What else do I have to say on this topic? The father seems to be very awesome guy. Like I say, he's a guy who pays attention to, he's a guy who seems that he's very smart and he stays up with the times. he spoke during the final words of the sentencing, which was just a few days ago. His other daughter did as well. And then one of the uncles spoke, and the uncle was just basically saying, like, you're going to hell, mister. You're pathetic. And the sister also said, you're pathetic, you're pathetic. So they really told the guy off. So this is just a really sad situation that what can you hope for except for to have some answers? And what's also pretty sick is that the state let people down by not getting the information of, like, how long have you been planning this? Why did you pick these people? And where is the murder tool? Because that has still gone unfound. So it would have been great had they said, okay, well, you want to plead guilty and save yourself from a death sentence? Well, then you need to tell us where everything is, and you need to give us more information until we're happy. So maybe somebody will get to him in prison. I don't know. The guy claimed to be so freaking smart, and then he goes and makes certain mistakes, and then it's like, is this guy says that all he wants to do is learn stuff. So, like, maybe what he did was he was thinking that he could possibly get life in prison, and then he would have all the time he wants to study, read, converse via letters to people inside and out. And then if the state is stupid enough to release him in the future, then he could fall back on royalties of his stories, you know? So this is what I had to share with you today, that an absolute horror story had happened for somebody in the HEX community who did not allow themselves to be known as a person in the HEX community, except for a national interview that he did wearing a HEX hat back when this had all gone down within the first year, or within the first day or two of this whole thing going down. He was giving interviews. And he still is giving interviews. So I'll just leave it at that. And I apologize that I had gotten the two girls' names mixed up. I've been doing a few other things that are aiding me in not remembering exactly. But if it is that this girl here had M up in her window, then I'm guessing that was Madison. And then Kaylee was over here in this room who had moved out. That means that it's Kaylee whose father did a lot for this case and who is a Hexakin. And then Kaylee was as well, had purchased that Land Rover, had brought it to town that day in order to show it off and have a night on the town, which then ended up being her last. Wish these people the best, and I will see you guys later. Eco Builder out. You know me. You know how to get in touch with me. Twitter, Eco Builder. And then also subscribe and like and comment whatever it is that you have to say about this. And all links are on the YouTube page somewhere. All right, cheers. We're coming up on a bull. Get ready.
Yeah, you know me. They threw the rules, but he played his own. Built an empire from a vision he